Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Saloon Podcast. I'm your host, Mirage, or Knock, alternatively if you want to call me that. And I'm joined as usual by my co-host, Werner.
How's it going, everybody? We're talking about more Mario games, because who doesn't love Mario? Unless you don't like Mario, in which case this show is probably not made for you. But, crude jokes aside, we are here talking about another Mario game tonight, because, what else are we gonna do?
We're actually talking about a collection of Mario games.
And no, it's
not just one.
We got 5 games.
It's not 3D All-Stars.
We got 5 games on our plate tonight, and we're talking about the original Mario games, the ones that started the series. No, we're not talking about Donkey Kong. That's for a separate discussion. We're talking about Super Mario Brothers, Lost Levels, Mario 2 USA, 3, and also
Mario 1. Oh, and 1.
I covered
1. Unless you already mentioned that.
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, oops, my bad. Okay. I must have not heard you on my end.
We're covering them as all of a part as Super Mario All-Stars, the SNES remake of all of these games. And why are we covering Super Mario World along with it? Because there was a version of the game that does include it. And a fun fact, I actually have the cartridge of that version, so I can prove that it's legitimate. So let's not waste any time and let's speak on these games as a whole, starting with the original Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, Mario 1 was interesting because it was the first game that started it all. Apparently, it stopped the crash of '83 and aged pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, that's true. Mario 1, it definitely aged the most out of all of these games, but that's to be expected. It was one of the earliest games of its time. One of the first games that actually included full scrolling.
It's also the most linear out of the 3 games, too.
Right.
Well, 4, actually. Or 5, I mean. But...
So, yeah, the original 2D Mario's, it is the most linear out of all of them. So, it is a game that that definitely can be replayed during all of its with its age in mind. So that's why I still think it holds up surprisingly well despite its flaws. And with the fact that it's a game that has stood the test of time, I still think you could go back to it and enjoy it. I think it's a good time. Granted, it isn't perfect by any means. Like, that just kind of goes to be expected with a game like this, considering how old it is. But it's still a good time. I highly recommend playing it on the NES version, if possible. If you have the Switch and you have online, there really is no excuse not to play the original Super Mario.
Or if you have like a ROM. Yeah, or if you have an NES ROM or emulator, or with a ROM for...
Or, heck, even if you have an NES and you have that game, what are you doing? It's a good time. Because I know retro consoles retro consoles have been booming, so...
Aside from how it controls, it doesn't, control the best. It feels kind of... What's the word? Slippery? Not slippery, but...
It feels...
sluggish? I don't know.
It's weird. But let's take...
wonky.
Yeah. So let's... Yeah, it does. So let's change gears a little bit, and since we briefly mentioned Mario 1, let's cover Mario 2. Or
both versions of Mario 2. Lost Levels and USA. But we'll cover Lost Levels first.
Because Lost Levels actually released first. But, bit of a history lesson for y'all real quick. In release order, Lost Levels did not see a release outside of Japan until Super Mario All-Stars, and did not get a full SNES version release until the Nintendo Wii.
And this is because of the fact that Lost Levels was actually too hard for players over in the US. So they had to make SMB2 USA to compensate for it, which is why Lost Levels actually never got a release outside of Japan.
And that's also why in Japan the game is called Super Mario Brothers 2 instead of, Lost Levels.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, out of the original Mario games, this one is the worst. Easily. It is brutally difficult.
Yeah, it's so difficult, in fact, that it's downright unfair.
I have to.
But if you want to torture yourself playing it, knock yourself out.
If you want to, I got through the game playing with save states. Retro purists can yell at me all they want. I feel deserved in the fact that Mario 2 is a Lost Levels is very difficult. So that's why I feel justified in my decision.
Painfully difficult. Mm-hmm.
It's yeah. But yeah, it's
not completely that fun. Not completely the most fun game. Or wait, not the most fun game.
Yeah,
because of how difficult it is.
But it does serve as a nice history lesson in the fact that it was pretty much an updated version of the original game with new levels and new graphics alike.
Which is why it ended up getting the name Lost Levels over in the US.
Although in the NES version of Lost Levels, they messed up the clouds. They look really dirty.
Oh wait, did they?
Yeah, they messed up the clouds. They do not look good. They're like given like a smiley face and this.
Oh wow, they did make them dirt. Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So yeah, that's yep. But it serves as it's a nice history lesson at the very least. It shows that Nintendo were actually concerned about making their games too hard for their core audience. So, but I like hard games.
Yeah.
I'm not to the point where they're jaw-droppingly difficult, like Lost Levels. But hey,
yeah,
with what's essentially just Super Mario 1.5, I feel it justifies its a purchase, or at least a play in the All-Stars version instead of the original NES game. Because you can save, naturally, so.
Yeah. Oh, and the sprites are better, obviously. There's that too.
Yeah, so. It's a bit of a weird one, that game. Not particularly one we find good, but it's far from terrible. It's not the worst Mario game out there. But
yeah, I wouldn't say it's particularly bad. I mean, it's painfully difficult, but I wouldn't say that, ruins the experience completely, say, I don't know, Mega Man and Bass does for players.
Especially
because, I mean, at least you can get through it more...
Especially
I'd say
the GBA version,
less cheap. I'd say it's less cheap than Mega Man and Bass. It's difficult, but it's not so much so to the point where it makes you want to tear your controller in half, or... So...
Yeah,
I mean...
so...
Well, not tear, but, snap it in half. But yeah, basically, it's hard, but it's not so hard to the point where it's unbeatable.
Yeah,
but,
so...
Yeah, it's alright.
Ramblings aside,
anyways, moving on.
Let's move on to Super Mario 2, also known in Japan as Super Mario USA. Now, y'all are probably wondering... Okay, chances are you probably already know the story by now. Mario 2 is a resprite and reprint of Doki Doki Panic on the Famicom, which was also made by Nintendo. So, I guess as a way to summarize the fact that Mario 2 happened, and it's a thing. Mario 2 is actually it isn't bad by any means. I don't think it's great, but you can still do a whole lot worse than it. I definitely...
It's odd.
It's a bit of
Mario 2 USA has a completely different gameplay style because of the fact that it was built off of Doki Doki Panic as a base, so they have an entirely new gameplay style that they have to get used to. That gameplay style being you have to pick up enemies and throw them instead of bouncing on their heads, which is something that's very different and
It's
alien to people that have already familiarized themselves with the first game. So people naturally would be like, what's this? Why am I picking enemies up and throwing them instead of jumping on their heads? Isn't jumping Mario's thing? It is,
yeah,
but because of the fact that, again, Mario 2, the original, the Lost Levels, was too hard for American players, they had to make this one to compensate for it. But
yeah,
not many people knew this, so they looked at it as mostly being the black sheep of the trilogy. Or, sorry, my bad, quadrilogy. I would use the actual term for
hmm,
quadrilogy, but I forgot what it was. Anyways, that being said, yeah, Mario 2 USA was kind of a weird one. The plot in Mario 2 USA was also different. You had, instead of Bowser, you also had King Wart, I think his name was.
yeah. King Ward was terrorizing the people of Subcon. He really doesn't like vegetables, so but he has a vegetable machine. Go beat up his minions and give him a fruit salad at the end. Give him a salad at the end. I should also mention this was the introduction of Birdo, and she would become a mainstay in the series come games like Mario Kart Double Dash.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's a thing. Uh, yeah, that's basically Mario 2 USA and Mario 2 Lost Levels. On to 3.
Mario
3 is a
3.
3 is a good one. 3
I,
isn't too hard, and nor is it too easy. 3 is just right, just like the first game was.
I must
3
also
adds.
I must
Oh,
also
sorry.
I must also mention right here, Mario 3 is the first ever video game that I ever played. It wasn't the NES version or the Super Nintendo version, but it was the Game Boy Advance version on Mario Advance 4. So I hold a lot of nostalgic value to Mario 3, no matter what version of the game I play. And it's the video game I know a lot, probably know the most about, other than like say SRB2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mario 3, I will agree with the consensus. It's a great game and introduces so much new stuff. Introduces a world map and introduces awesome new power ups. The first time in the series that there were actually different power ups. And
Instead of just the Fire Flower and Starman, and that being the only two that you have at your disposal.
yeah, stuff like the raccoon leaves, the Hammer Brothers suit, the Frog suit, and the Tanuki suit. So many awesome new additions. The the
Which ended up being a general basis for future power-ups, like, for example, the wing cap, which is basically like the the raccoon, the Tanuki feather. The wing cap is basically just like that, except it's in 3D. That's it.
yeah.
But Mario 3X is a basis for all the power-ups in future games. So without Mario 3, we wouldn't have gotten all these neat power-ups in future titles. So thank Mario 3 for that.
And also, we must also mention that Mario 3 is just a general blast to play. It's like
Aside from the fact that it still feels a little sluggish and slippery.
you can legitimately go back to this game like today, and you'd still be able to feel like you can have a good time.
Oh yeah. Again, provided if you can look past the controls, it's still a really good game.
Oh, I can look past
And
the
it holds up very well.
I can look past the controls anytime. Mario 3, it's a legitimate, it's a keeper. There's a reason why it's one of the most revered games in Nintendo's catalog, and it's still great, even almost over 20 years later, probably even 30. Well, Mario 3 came out in 87, so in 2020, so I don't know, 35th anniversary. So in 2023, it'll be 35 years old. So this game is over 30 years old. But I can look past
Which is incredible.
It's stood the test of time. There's a reason why
Indeed.
There is a reason why this game is so beloved even today. I love it with all of my heart. And I'm so happy that it was my personal first ever video game. I hold it with I hold it in high regard because of that.
For me, my first video game was just all of them at once because I got All Stars completely, along with Mario World. I got Mario World separately though. I didn't get like All Stars with Mario World. I got Mario World separately as its own cartridge, but I got to play all of the games, including Lost Levels. And I played Lost Levels not knowing what it was all about, and I thought Lost Levels at the time when I was a kid. I assumed Lost Levels at the time was a thing that was exclusive to uh, All Stars, but then later on I realized that it actually wasn't, and Lost Levels was the real and original Mario 2. So that's a fun thing I'd like to mention real quick.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Um, right, Mario World. Oh boy, Mario World adds another whole slew of good things. For instance, Mario World improves upon the controls for starters. It doesn't feel as like sluggish and slippery. Like you can like there's like the friction doesn't feel as like loose. It's really hard to explain Mario like the controls from Mario 1 to Mario 3. It's really weird.
Mario
But
World
Mario World actually fixes this problem.
it improves upon everything that 3 did. Like it adds a bunch of new power-ups, it adds a bunch of new gameplay gimmicks. It's pretty much the complete package for any kind of Mario fan. It's a great time, and like again, you could honestly go back and replay Mario World like anytime, any day because it's a there's a reason why so many Nintendo fans hold a lot of nostalgia for it. It's legitimately great.
Oh, it was also the first game that included slopes. Or no, wait, no, that was 3. Never mind, my bad. Oops. I forgot. It wasn't Mario World. But while it wasn't the first game that included slopes, it was the first game that actually was going to end up being entirely different. During its development, it ended up being a lot of things ended up being cut and scrapped from the game, including Yoshi's design. Yoshi went through a lot of revisions. So that's another fun fact. Wario World sprites were completely different at one point. Yoshi was going to be entirely different. There were a lot of things that were going to be entirely different that ended up getting cut from the final game. That honestly probably would have made Mario World even better than it is now.
But
But
as it stands, like there's a reason why
it's
Mario World.
not bad.
No, it's a legitimately great game. And again, it's one that you can legitimately.
But with all the beta content that would have gotten in, it would have been even better. At
Yeah.
least I think so, anyways.
Yeah.
I think Mario's beta sprites for Mario World were better too, honestly. But that aside, Mario World was still pretty good. But oh yeah, I just realized. For those of you who are probably wondering, why aren't we mentioning the plot for Mario 2 Lost Levels, and 3
Because
and World?
we cover them in every other
They're pretty
Mario
much
game.
the same. It's literally the same thing throughout the entirety of all the games. The only one that's actually different is Mario 2 USA because of the fact that there's a different antagonist. That's the only reason why we mentioned Mario 2 USA's plot and no other plot aside from 2 USA. So at that point, 2 USA actually warrants a
a little bit more
it
discussion.
actually
Yeah.
warrants us to mention it warrants a mention, I think.
Yeah.
But essentially, yeah, that's the reason why we didn't mention the plots. Now, as for All Stars itself, the collection that includes all of the games, including Mario World, if you happen to get Mario World and the rest of the games in the same package,
which was,
right?
I think, a pack-in title with certain Super Nintendos at the time. So
Yeah, but essentially, what All Stars does it improves upon all the games in terms of the game's sprite quality, the music, and other things. It essentially refines it and brings it up to date to Super Nintendo standards instead of leaving the games as the way leaving the games the way they were during their time as 8-bit titles. So that's pretty neat. Aside from that, I can't think of. Oh no, wait! I forgot. I just realized Super Mario World also has some differences too. If you happen to get All Stars packaged in with Mario World, Luigi's sprites are actually different and more closely resemble how Luigi actually looks instead of being a mere recolored Mario sprites.
Yeah,
but aside from that, that's pretty much all Stars does.
Like it took until this version of the game to give Luigi an actual distinct look from Mario. Like, for the longest time, he was a recolor. In the original version of Mario World, he was also a recolor, but it took until this version of the game that unfortunately never got a re-release outside of this one package, for Luigi sprites to actually be fixed. So,
yep, pretty much. But aside from that, that's pretty much everything that I can think of that we covered at the top of my head.
Yeah, that's
unless there's something we're missing, but
no, yeah, I don't think there is. So with that was all of the original 2D Mario games.
Yep. All of which are, again, pretty good and hold up really well.
Regardless of which version.
Which I should probably play again at some point.
Yeah. Whatever version of the games you play, original on the NES, Super Nintendo All-Stars, or heck, maybe even the Game Boy Advance versions of World 2 and 3, doesn't matter. These games hold up ridiculously well and are definitely classics that stood the test of time. And we love them.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, I believe that's pretty much it. And without further ado, we'll see you next time in the next episode of the Saloon Podcast. See ya.
Things might get messy next time, so be ready for that.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, yeah.